Okay, I made a video like this a few months ago, kind of similar, but there was a couple more points I wanted to zero in on. So I'm basically going to be talking about the 2024 election, but more broadly, I'm kind of going to talk about the psychology of elections in the United States. So a lot of people will look at a poll. This poll will be between Trump and Biden, right? And they will say that, well, Trump has this percentage chance of beating Biden, right? Trump's is 4 points up on Biden, or vice versa, whatever. Now, what this poll does is it pits Trump against Biden, and it completely removes the concept of any other candidates in that election. It removes all other choices, right? And we have to think about the psychological effect of a poll like this. So, what it does is it basically creates the perception in your head that Trump and Biden are the only options, okay? And when you fall for that perception, when you fall for the results of that poll, you may fool yourself into believing that you only have two options, right? Perception is everything in an election. If you believe that there are only two options, then you are going to vote for one of those two options. Or maybe you're just going to abstain completely because those two options are terrible, right? Because you don't want to vote for the lesser of two evils. This is a pollsters, they are in the mainstream media who constantly shoves those polls in your face. They this is the greatest psychological trick they have to control the elections, okay? They basically tell you that you only have two options, and in doing so, you begin to believe that any other third party vote is a waste of your vote, right? This is how the two party system continues to destroy this country. This is how the uniparty is controlled by corporations, okay? The media throws these polls at you 24/7, and you begin to perceive that there is no other option between these two, other than these two corporate parties. And what this does is, again, first of all, it convinces people to vote for the lesser of two evils, but it also convinces people to not vote at all. This is a very big problem, okay? So, democracy dies when people are fooled like this, okay? Technically, it doesn't die because people are still voting voluntarily, or not voting, or voluntarily not voting, but the function of democracy dies. The effective democracy dies. So, again, back to the psychology of these polls. What happens when you vote third party? Well, again, many people will tell you it's a waste of a vote because there's no chance that that third party will win this election, right? What the goal of the mainstream media is with this psychological warfare game that they play with these polls is they try to convince you that a third party is a waste of a vote because that third party can't win. But what's really happening, though, is they are fooling you into voting for the lesser of two evils. And ultimately, those parties are owned by corporations, right? The corporations that fund both parties don't care who wins. They don't care if Biden or Trump wins because they win either way. If you look at the corporate profits over the last two presidencies, they've done nothing but go up. Okay, they go up no matter what. It doesn't matter who's in office. As long as it's one of the two corporate establishment candidates, they don't care. The corporations don't care, and the corporations are the ones who fund the media corporations that show you all the polls, that play the psychological games with you. So they try to convince you, these media platforms, with these polls, they try to convince you that it's a waste of a vote to vote for a third party. They try to, and the way they do that is they try to convince you that this next election is the end all be all of the rest of America, right? They don't want you thinking long term. And the reason they don't want you thinking long term is because if you did think long term, the conclusion that you would come to is that it takes momentum for a third party candidate to win. What that means is that if a third party candidate gets 5% of the vote this election, then 10% next election, then 15, then 25, that momentum has to build. Okay, it doesn't build in one election cycle. So when they tell you that a vote for a third party is a vote for Trump, or vice versa, a vote for a third party is a vote for Biden, when people tell you this, they are only thinking about one election cycle. They're not thinking about the long term. Okay, and the two-party system, the uniparty, is dependent on fooling you into believing this is how the world works. They're dependent on stomping out that third-party momentum that builds over time. So it's that third-party momentum that is capable of destroying this Democrat-Republican paradigm. And therefore, both the right-wing and the left-wing media their goal is to stomp out that third-party momentum at any cost. Okay, again, the right and left-wing media, they're funded by the same corporations, okay, or maybe slightly different corporations, but regardless, the candidates they put forth support the same economic policies that apply to all those corporations. So whether Trump or Biden wins, the economic policies that Trump and Biden push benefit the corporations that are funding the mainstream media who are propping up Trump and Biden. So the point here is that if you fall for this psychological game, this psychological trick that the mainstream media plays, and that the Republican and Democrat parties play, and you fall for this lesser of two evils game where you have to vote for Trump or Biden rather than a third party, then that third party never gains momentum. Okay, but again, this isn't about one election cycle. Everyone who's capable of listening to me right now has been alive for more than one election cycle. Assuming you're not 7 years old, you have been alive for more than one election cycle. And yet, by voting for the lesser of two evils, you are convincing yourself that a third-party momentum is impossible to build. And the reason you are convinced of that is because the mainstream media played psychological warfare with you. They fooled you. They played with your perception, and they won. So I'm not, if you're some vote blue no matter who person, I'm not going to get across to you in this video. If you're some Trumper, I'm not going to get across to you in this video. But if you are one of the many people in this country who are sick of this two-party system, if you are an unlikely voter because you are sick of voting for the lesser of two evils, then I encourage you, vote for a third-party candidate. It doesn't matter if it's RFK, Cornel West, some libertarian. It doesn't matter if it's Mickey Mouse. You can vote for yourself. The point is that come election night, when the votes are all tallied up on the screen, on the TV, right? We need that other category, okay? There'll be Trump, Biden. We need that other category to be large, and we need it to be larger than it's ever been. We need it to be larger than it was in 2020, in 2016, etc. That is momentum. That is the momentum that perhaps in 2028 will lead to a third-party win, or maybe 2032, or if we're lucky, in 2024. The point here is that if you allow these polls to convince you that there are only two options, you are complicit in these corporate Democrat and Republican parties. You are complicit in this uniparty paradigm, and you can't complain. If you vote for Democrats and Republicans, you can't complain for the results the Democrats and Republicans put forth. Okay, so I encourage you to think about the results that the Democrat and Republican parties have led to in this country as one unit. Okay, think of them as a uniparty. Think of the results as one, again, as a uniparty. Think of them as one solid result that both of them have contributed to, rather than, oh, the Democrats do this and the Republicans are better, or vice versa, right? They're one and the same, and the proof of that is in the wealth inequality. The wealth inequality rises no matter who's in office. The corporations profit while the working class gets screwed over. So vote third party. write someone in, it doesn't matter. Again, it doesn't even matter if you're writing in yourself. If the third party candidates collectively get 10% of the vote this election, maybe it's 15 next election. Over time, that third party vote will coalesce, it will organize together behind one candidate. And that is how you beat the two party system. We have to think logically here. We can't allow simple psychological games to fool us into voting against our own interests. So again, you have to understand the effect that a poll has on your perception. The purpose of a poll between Trump and Biden is to convince you that those are your only two options, and those polls are shown to you by the mainstream media, and the mainstream media is largely funded by ad revenue that is paid for by large corporations. So there's this cycle of profits between corporations, media corporations, and the candidates that those media corporations prop up. So the corporations pay the media corporations, they buy their ad space, and therefore the media corporations are going to prop up candidates who support the profit motives of the corporations who buy their ad space. Why would they do anything different? Why would those media corporations do anything different? It benefits them to support corrupt candidates who are going to go into office and write economic policy that gives the corporations more money, because those corporations pay they pay the wages of the media corporations. They pay for the profits that the media corporations make. We have to reject all mainstream media. We have to reject the candidates they put in front of us, and if we don't do that, we will continue. The working class will continue to get shafted. So personally, I'm going to vote for RFK, but I'm not here to campaign for him. I have a bumper sticker. That's good enough for me. I campaign a little bit, but not much. I just want you to vote third party. If you are the person sick of voting for that uniparty, or the Democrat-Republican paradigm, you're sick of voting for the lesser of two evils, vote third party. And what'll happen, maybe not this election, maybe not next election, but over time, that momentum builds. Somebody who tells you that a third party is a wasted vote is somebody who simply doesn't understand the concept of momentum. They are thinking short term instead of long term. And perhaps they're thinking short term because they fear dictator Trump, but that's just fear propagation. That's just somebody who's a victim of fear propagation. And in truth, I feel bad for him. I feel bad for the people who think that Trump's going to become a dictator if he wins in 2024, because those people are scared of a ghost, in effect. They're scared of nothing. And we'll see that, okay? If Trump wins in 2024, he'll be out in 2028, guaranteed. You know it. I know it. All critical thinkers know it. People don't want dictators. Even Republicans don't want dictators. There are maybe perhaps some devout Trumpers that want dictators, that want Trump to be their dictator, but in truth, Trump's not even going to live that long. So don't vote based on your fear of the greater evil. Vote your conscience. Vote for who you want, who you believe is going to be the best at the job. And if there's no one out there that fits that ticket, vote for yourself. Doesn't matter. The point is that on election night, that other category, that needs to grow over time. And when it grows, eventually that other category coalesces into an organized party that gets behind one candidate. Who's that candidate going to be? I don't know. Personally, I hope RFK wins in a landslide. If he picks the right vice president, I think he can. Personally, I think Jon Stewart, if he was up for it, would be a great choice as a VP for RFK. But I don't know if Jon Stewart would be up for it. But just think about the psychological effects that polls have on your perception and how they feed into who you vote for. I encourage you, as if you are an unlikely voter, if you are somebody who thinks that voting third party is a waste of time, and you're therefore not going to vote because the Democrat and Republican parties are too corrupt, write somebody in. Again, it doesn't matter who it is. It literally doesn't matter. I would encourage you to look into RFK, look into Cornel West, look into Marianne Williamson, and any libertarian candidate you may want to, and look into all the third-party candidates. If you don't find one you like, vote for yourself, vote for Mickey Mouse. It doesn't matter. Bottom line, write somebody in and vote. Thanks for watching.